The Song of the Roots of Hithyglir is a lie. As Elrond pointed out, most elves doubt the validity of the legend. It is true that Ninya, one of the three elven rings of power, is made of Mithril. Two of the ring's key abilities are preservation and the ability to conceal itself from evil. Ninya is the only ring of power created from Mithril, so we don't know for sure if Mithril had anything to do with those two abilities. Mithril is also said to have unexplained magical abilities that we don't know much about, and nothing diminishes its light. But it was definitely not created by lightning striking a Silmaril. There are two reasons why I'm certain Mithril was not created this way. Reason number one is those of us that read the Silmarillion vaguely know where the Silmarils ended up. One of the three Silmarils became the Star of Arendelle, which is common knowledge. One was thrown in a fiery pit by Maedhros. He actually threw himself and the Silmaril in the fiery pit. The last one was thrown into the sea by Maglor. The misty mountains under which Khazad-dûm is located has been around since the First Age, and unless the mountains were at one point of volcanic origins, it's very unlikely to be where Maedhros threw one of the Silmarils. Reason number two is from the Silmarillion, we know that the last two Silmarils would remain lost until the end of Arda. Arda is the world as a whole, which includes Middle-earth and Aman. My theory is that Sauron made up the whole thing to start a war between the elves and the dwarfs. He's also corrupting the trees in Lindon, forcing the elves to take extreme measures. Corrupting trees isn't a new concept. He's taken a page out of Morgoth's playbook. It's no coincidence that a corrupted leaf fell in front of Gil-galad after the meteor flew by. It was meant to spook him and show him there could still be danger right around the corner, and the elves are getting weaker. They have to do something to reverse that. I think Sauron's been plotting to turn the elves and the dwarfs against each other for a while now. He's in the background, pulling strings, and we've not met him yet. The dwarfs see Mithril as something that could be the beginning of a new era for their people, and the elves think it's their salvation. Sauron hopes to use Mithril to turn his two greatest enemies against each other. It's just way too convenient that the dwarfs discover something that just happens to be the very thing the elves need to remain on Middle-earth. Also, how did the elves know that the dwarfs discovered Mithril? How were they so sure that the dwarfs would be willing to give it to them? Mithril is the reason they want to create a forge more powerful than any ever built before. Their plan is to use the forge to arm every elf with Mithril. If the dwarfs weren't willing to trade Mithril, would the elves take it with force? Sauron the Deceiver is surely at work here. Ultimately, I think his plans fail because of the friendship between Durin and Elrond. Friendship is a very important theme in Tolkien's work. It's a very powerful force. We somewhat know where the Silmarils ended up, and we know they are to remain lost. But the elves do not. Maedhros and his younger brother, Maglor, actually stole the Silmarils. They acted alone, and as far as we know, they were alone when they got rid of them. That means that the elves do not know that no one else knows the fate of the Silmarils. We know that Sauron is extremely charming and knowledgeable. It shouldn't be that surprising that he was able to deceive the elves. But how does Sauron know that the elves don't know the whereabouts of the lost Silmarils? And how does he know about Mithril? If the elves had any idea where the Silmarils were, then surely they would have tried to retrieve them. The Silmarils are the most coveted objects in the world. The Misty Mountains were created by Morgoth in the First Age. I don't think it's too far-fetched to think he would have known about Mithril and that he would have told Sauron about it. After all, Sauron was his greatest and most trusted lieutenant. It's also no coincidence that a Balrog is essentially guarding Mithril. Balrogs are, after all, Maiar corrupted by Morgoth.